Hey there, and welcome to Game Points episode 116, our weekly little get together. We talk about gaming news. I am, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is.
I'm David.
Tonight, David, we really don't have all that much to talk about. This is our last show of the year, so of course we will be doing our Game of the Year awards, our personal favorites and
Sure.
picks as to what's going on.
We'll call them awards, but it's actually just the random opinions of two dudes on the internet.
As they are, all right. If you happen to be watching us live, by the way, here at Twitch TV/GamePoints, feel free to join in the chat and write down whatever your favorite games of the year were when that segment comes along. And if you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to comment down below. Regardless of where you're at, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. David, for this, the last show of the year, is there anything special you want to lead off with, or should we just get right into the news?
For those of you that have a PlayStation that didn't play it yet, the Monster Hunter beta comes back on Friday.
This Friday.
Don't need PS Plus this time.
No PS Plus needed. Oh, really?
Yes.
How's that going to work?
In the announcement, I'm fairly positive you'll be able to download it from the store and play single player offline.
Okay. That's how it's going.
Because that is a game that you can play single player offline. It does have a full story mode. And if you haven't watched it yet, the Third Fleet trailer for Monster Hunter World is pretty damn amazing, because this new game will have like a full-fledged story with scripted events, cutscenes, voice acting.
Is that the first time that's ever happened to Monster Hunter?
Yes. There's always been like a pseudo story, but usually it's people talking in gibberish at you. And you read a lot of text that says, this new thing's attacking the town, go kill it. And then 20 minutes later, oh, there's some other thing attacking the town, can you kill it? And then, thanks, guy. And that's the whole storyline, which I'm willing to bet it's going to be pretty damn similar, but it looks a lot more epic this time around.
Okay. No, that's cool. I like that that's being put in there.
Yeah, for some reason, you didn't play it last time, and you have a PS4, you should definitely do that this weekend.
It's on my list of
things
do
whatever you want
early next year.
I'm not your boss.
Fair enough. So, last week, not too much really happened. A bunch of rumors were mentioned that didn't really pan out. We were going to go over that, but I said they didn't pan out, then why bother? We do have two news stories I want to get through before we wrap things up. And let's go ahead and get right into the first one here. This one comes via Extreme Tech, and it's about how Crytek is suing RSI. Now, if you don't know who RSI is, they're Robert Space Industries.
You can also throw SIG in there, Cloud Imperium Games, if that helps.
Yep, Cloud Imperium Games as well. Essentially, these are the guys that are making Star Citizen. And Crytek, not only developer of a few games, but mainly of engines, specifically CryEngine. And they got beef with Robert Space Industries. Big beef at that.
Large, angry beef.
So, in a suit that was filed in California last week, essentially there's 5 big points that they're wanting to hammer out. Once again, the link that you're seeing here is from Extreme Tech, so thank you for assembling all of that there. Their link will be down below if you want to read it. But these 5 points are as follows. 1. Crytek is alleging that CIG's decision to split Star Citizen into 2 separate titles, Star Citizen Multiplayer and Squadron 42, which is the single player, meant Crytek was now owed a licensing fee on the second title, as the agreement was only covered one game. So, for those of you who don't know, David, I'm sure you remember, Star Citizen as a project was essentially chopped into 2 halves, right? You have your multiplayer, open space exploration, Star Citizen, and then you have the single-player campaign that has Mark Hamill and Commissioner Gordon, what's his name?
Whatever, Squadron 42 is their single-player game.
Gary Oldman, that's his name. And a bunch of other famous people in there as Squadron 42. They're calling it 2 separate games now, and as such, Crytek saying, hey, you only licensed this engine for 1 game. Where's our cut for the second? What do you think about that as it stands? Let's assume the contract says that it's only for 1 game.
Assuming contract law works the way they say it does, then yeah. If you license an engine for 1 game, and it specifically states you're licensing this engine for 1 game, then I would say, yeah, you're limited to 1 game. Because as far as anyone knows, Squadron 42 will be a completely separate release. It's not going to be one purchase where you get both titles. They're going to release 2 separate games because they're broken into 2 separate projects. As far as anyone knows, if they release as 1 game that just has a different game mode you click on, I wouldn't say so. But potentially they're using the license to make money two different ways.
So if you get any recent Call of Duty on Steam lately, you'll notice that it comes in 2 or 3 different downloads. Same with Doom, if I recall correctly. They have using Call of Duty World War II, for example, you have the single player client that you can download if you just want to play single player, and then you have a whole separate download for multiplayer, and they're listed as 2 separate entries on the Steam list. I guess we're talking semantics now at this point. Is that one game or is that 2 separate games?
How many times did you buy it?
Once.
One game.
That's where the line is going to be, correct?
Hmm?
Now, what if they sell them separately? But you can buy them both together, or you can spend $20 to get the campaign.
That's why I think it'd be a separate thing.
Okay. Once again, we're not legal scholars here. We're just kind of...
I have no idea how licensing fees work. I actually just assume you pay the licensing fee to use the engine, and then you just use the fucking engine.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. The second allegation that Crytek is making is that Crytek alleges CIG broke the terms of its license agreement by removing the required trademarks and copyright notices. One of these terms of the license was that a Crytek branding and trademarks would be prominently displayed. At first, RSI followed these rules, but by September 24th, 2016, Crytek notes Chris Roberts was referring to CryEngine as Star Engine. Shortly after this, Crytek trademarks and copyright notices were removed from the game. This is going to tie in a little bit to point 3. If you recall, late last year, almost a year and change ago, they switched from the CryEngine to Lumberyard, which is Amazon's kind of their game development engine.
Still partially based in the CryEngine, we should point out.
That I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Once again, assuming that Crytek is telling the truth here, I don't know if this one necessarily stands up, because if they're not using CryEngine anymore, they don't need to be branding their game with CryEngine. That's my opinion. I'm not a legal guy, but doesn't that stand to reason? If you're not using CryEngine anymore, why would they brand it that if they switched all to Lumberyard? But we'll see. That's why you go to court to hash this stuff out. Mm-hmm. Next allegation, Crytek alleges that the game license agreement... let me rephrase that. Crytek alleges that in the game license agreement, Cloud Imperium Games was explicitly forbidden to use another game engine besides CryEngine to develop Star Citizen. The reason why that's tying back to the recent was because we just mentioned last year they switched over to Lumberyard. But I have to ask, I'm not a developer. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But doesn't that seem extremely short-sighted to say you will only use this one engine for this game?
Hey, what if they need to build another feature?
Yeah. Then do they have to build it and give it to Crytek?
Let's go on the other side though. Did SIG sign the line that says you're only allowed to use this engine? Because I mean, that's stupid. Why the fuck would you do that?
Yeah,
but if
I can't
they sign
see
the
why
line,
they
you
would
sign
say
the
that.
line.
But if they sign the line, they sign the line. 2 more points of the lawsuit that are important. The next one is Crytek alleges that CIG broke its written agreement to periodically contribute all bug fixes and optimizations it developed to Crytek itself. Crytek was notified to CIG it was in breach of this aspect of its agreement on 3 separate occasions in 2015, 2016, and 2017. Cloud Imperium Games, while claiming to be ready and willing to provide relevant optimizations and bug fixes, supposedly never did so. This one sounds like it might go against CIG because it sounds like they have openly said, yeah, we have them, but they just never sent them, which would be in violation of contract. Once again, keep in mind this lawsuit is only one side of the story, but the way that's written sounds like that they said, yeah, we have them and just never sent them. Whatever the hell any of that means. It sounds like if they found a bug, they had to forward to Crytek so Crytek can fix it. I don't know. And then the final one. Crytek alleges CIG shared source code with third-party developers without seeking license-mandated prior approval from Crytek or even informing Crytek had done so. That right there is the dangerous one. Because you can't go around sharing source code to other people. Period. Like, that's bad.
Yeah, that would be a breach. That's like the first thing that they would have you sign.
Yeah, it's like you can't fucking tell anyone about the details of our source code to any third party out there.
Which is also the same way it is for Lumberyard. They make the source code available to you so you can customize your game, but it's still limited by their service terms, and you're not allowed to like publicly release it or give it to somebody else so they can modify it. It's literally licensed to you.
Yeah. If you think that this isn't a big deal, just and I'm going way back in the annals of PC gaming history. Remember when the source code to Half-Life 2 was leaked?
Mm-hmm.
And just the shitstorm that caused? And that was just like a part of the source code. Like, this shit is important when it comes to developers. And I know that if you're not one, I know we're not one, it seems all kind of nebulous. It's like, why would you care? But there is a lot of weight when it comes to protecting proprietary source code. So I would say of all the points in this, this is the one that has the chance to, if it goes against Cloud Imperium Games, being really bad. Any opinions on this, David?
So legal talk is tough to get super invested in because it's
lawyers,
way over my head. Yeah. And really this is going to be solved by somebody handing a very, very lengthy contract to a contract lawyer who's going to be standing in front of a judge, and they're going to say, okay, here's point A, B, and C of the contract, and they're either going to say, okay, here's evidence that CIG broke the contract, or here's evidence they didn't, and we'll find out when the lawsuit ends. I have no way to know either way.
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
They say they switched to Lumberyard. Crytek says, no, you didn't. You partially did, but you can still see evidence of our game engine in your game. And I don't know how the fuck you could see that. Because did they download the client and then start digging through the source code? Because are you allowed to do that even if you provided the source in the first? I don't know. I have no idea how any of this just works. I do know that CIG and RSI. I don't know why I need two acronyms for this
They're
shit.
Essentially the same company. I honestly think that they split into two separate companies for liability reasons. I think that's designed for when I feel Star Citizen eventually goes belly up, that Chris Roberts is protected somehow. Salty Frank of the Seas, thanks for joining the chat. And yes. I think David said that Lumberyard is a variation of the CryEngine.
Yeah, Lumberyard's built with a few different engines built into it, but one of them is CryEngine, AWS, Double Helix, Emotion Effects. There's like a few different things that went into it, but CryEngine is like the base of the operation, I guess.
The important takeaway from this story is not that this lawsuit's happening or that we think someone's right or wrong. It's that these are two very shitty companies going at each other, which always makes me chuckle. Cloud Imperium Games, Robert Space Industries, and all that has been working on Vaporware for going on 7 years now, 6 years. It's been a while.
But they only had $183 million to make the game. That's not enough.
Exactly. I will believe this game exists when I see it, and when it finally does come out, there's no way it's going to be anywhere near what was promised. Crytek, on the other hand, the original
game that was promised was my favorite thing of all time, but now it's just there's so much stuff to it.
Yeah,
this
is No Man's Sky ramped up to 11.
Well, No Man's Sky came out. It just came out way the hell too soon. This game's doing the exact opposite.
It's just never going to come out.
Yeah.
And Crytek is a company that, if I recall correctly, wasn't paying their employees for like 6 fucking months.
Yeah. They make like 3 games so that they can make a new engine, so they can license the engine, so they can live off the engine while just not giving a shit about anybody that actually made it.
Salty Frank says it's Ships Collector, the CCG, a game where instead of a $3 card pack, you pay up to $1,000 for one ship.
That is so true. Did you see the article about the guy that was suing them to get his refund? Because they know that you can get a refund, and he wanted like a $25,000 refund on all the crap he bought from Star Citizen. He's like, yeah, this is just not happening, and I want my damn money back. And it's been in process for like 6 months. He's fighting it in court, and so far he's gotten like $16,000 back.
It's likely he's from
only
Europe.
Because he's like pulling teeth to get it.
That's likely because he's probably in Europe. Europe has very consumer-friendly laws when it comes to digital refunds. If he was in America, it might be a little bit harder. But I can't speak to the validity of that. That's just off the top of my head what I think might be the case.
I just thought it was funny to hear a story about guys. It's like some dude that spent $25,000 on the damn game. Like,
that's
the equivalent of a whale in mobile gaming.
Your estimated delivery was like 2014. It's 4 years late, buddy.
Yeah. He's like, screw you guys. I want my money back.
We're gonna move on from that. Honestly, I don't even care. I wanted to care. I wanted to care about Star Citizen. Like when I first heard about it in
I was excited for like
2011.
the first 2 years, 3 years.
But anyways, moving on to the other news story before we get into other things, and we're going to
There's
talk
almost
about.
no news this week.
No, there's not.
Great.
Everyone's gone on Christmas break, understandably so. In fact, we won't even be doing a show next week because it's Christmas. We might do one on the first. I haven't quite sussed out the details of that yet. But as such, there's no.
Depending on hangovers.
Yeah, exactly. There's no real news except for this one small bit right here, and that's 2K Games is making an indie label, and I don't know how to feel about that. Let me bring it up here. Here we go. Take-Two announces Private Division. The format. Let me actually read the article. Sorry, I lost my place. Here we go. Take-Two Interactive Software today announced the formation of Private Division, a new publishing label comprised of proven game industry veterans that is dedicated to bringing titles from top independent developers to market. Cool, right? Okay, it's another company doing a indie label. You had EA with their EA partners. You have Ubi Labs, the Ubisoft Lab. I think it's called like Ubi Labs or Create Labs or something like that. And you have PlayStation with their big indie push. What's important about this is they actually announced a few upcoming games in this press release here, and we'll go over them real quick. Not too many details are known about most of these. One, the previous announced Ancestors, the Humankind Odyssey from Panache Digital Games, a studio led by the creator of Assassin's Creed franchise, Patrice Delitz. 2. An unannounced RPG currently codenamed Project Right from The Outsiders, a studio founded by ex-DICE developers David Goldfarb and Ben Cousins. I'd be very interested to see what the hell that is. Following up with that is an unannounced RPG from Obsidian Entertainment led by Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, co-creators of Fallout. That one probably excites me more than the others because I would love to see Obsidian, who, have there's been this big resurgence of classic RPGs on the PC with Divinity and Pillars of Eternity and Torment Tides of Numenera. Yeah, I would love to see a post-apocalyptic one like Fallout, or even go back to like Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura. I want to see that kind of a CRPG come back. Finally, you have an unannounced sci-fi first-person shooter from V1 Interactive, a studio founded by Halo co-creator Marcus Lehto. Meh.
No, they're also going to be the publishers for Kerbal Space because Take-Two got that in last year.
Right. Cool. I like this idea. Keep in mind, all the games that we announced are not even going to be planned until after the next upcoming 2 years. There's a little footnote at the bottom that says there are no titles from Private Division currently planned for release during Take-Two's fiscal years ending March 31st, 2018 and 19. So whatever is here won't even see the light of day until halfway through 2019.
That's okay. It's fun to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to know what that Obsidian RPG is. Like, I really want to know what that is. I would say that's probably the one that has my interest the most.
I just like the fact that Take-Two is like, hey, we have this smaller company now that's going to do publishing for indie games as we just basically poke Rockstar to pump out games that are just going to make money forever. I think once Red Dead 2 comes out, they're not going to make another game for like 20 years.
Right.
They're just going to milk Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead for as much possible money as people will give them.
It's interesting.
With shark cards and coyote cards or whatever the hell they're called.
It's interesting to see coyote card for Red Dead Redemption.
Thank you.
It's interesting to see the AAA publishers pick up the slack that Let me start the sentence over again because I'm kind of rambling here. It's interesting to see AAA publishers fill in the void that was left when companies like THQ went under.
THQ Nordic is still doing stuff.
Yeah, but nowhere near on the level it used to be. And a lot of those companies are gone. A lot of that mid-tier stuff, things like Numenera and Pillars of Eternity, things that had to turn to crowdfunding like Kickstarter or Fig to get off the ground. You're starting to see the bigger publishers going, hey, there is a market here. Let's tap into that a little bit. And so they're making these spin-off publishing arms to hit that stuff. So you have now THQ Nordic, I guess, Devolver Digital, who kind of handles the smaller scale B tier games, and then you have the rest of it filled in by either first party developers like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo doing their stuff, like the Nintendies, for example, and you're starting to get the bigger publishers, EA, Take-Two, dipping their toes in it, and they've been doing that for the past 2 years. I just think it's interesting to see them acclimate to the void that was left behind when all the mid-tier publishers got wiped out between 2008 and 2012.
I don't know. I was going to make a middle class joke, but I decided against it.
Fair enough.
Uh,
Either way, David, none of
Yes.
those games from Private Division will be coming out for at least 2 years. If I
yeah,
want
can we
to play
talk about
something,
the fact that we've been here 20 minutes and we're going to get into new releases because legitimately it's the week before Christmas and nothing happened this week?
yeah, not a
I know
goddamn thing.
I know we're like a news show, but congratulations, that's the news. Like,
And
it's been really
that's
short.
how the news goes.
yeah, there was a war in No Man's Sky somehow.
Yeah, there's No Man's Sky antics. There's a bunch of rumors from Bandai Namco. None of them panned out with. Shit didn't happen because everyone's away on their family. So let's talk new releases, David.
Cool. Almost none of them. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds 1.0 launch hits PC. Hit Xbox last week. It had a whole ton of issues. Kind of bad frame rate,
It
connection
was
issues.
garbage. It was bad.
And yet it still sold like hotcakes because people were so ready for that game to be on console. I do think it's funny that there's now a promotion where you can get a free copy of PUBG if you buy an Xbox One X.
It sounds about right. I don't know if that's an official promotion or not.
Because that's the game that's going to sell the console. Because it has nothing else. Oh man.
Everything that I have an interest in on Xbox One, I can buy on PC.
That's the problem. Is there's no specific reason to get it, unless you have a 4K TV, a really good sound system, and you want to watch Ultra HD Blu-rays. In which case, you should get it because it's got Dolby Atmos and all this other nonsense in it.
It's got all of your audiophile love built in.
Yeah, and it can actually play Ultra HD Blu-ray discs, but
just
so
drives me
can the
nuts. I don't
Xbox One S. So I don't know. Also coming out this week for PSVR, Accounting Plus. This is the really strange VR game that came out for I think the Vive or the Rift not too long ago. That's put together by the Rick and Morty guys.
Yeah, I think it's Squanch Tendo. Is the
Squanch-
name of the company? Squanch Games.
Project Squanch Games.
Something
They're
like that.
squanching here. They're squanching all over your face with Accounting Plus. Also coming out this week, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Episode 3 for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Still no Ashley Birch. Still looking at what happened to the characters in Life is Strange before Life is Strange happened.
I just
Okay.
do not care about that franchise, that game at all. Like, I can't get into it. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, it's this amazing story and narrative," and I literally like played the first 10 minutes of it and just went, "I can't with this. This is just not good for me." I'm sure you guys love it if you're a big fan of the series. I'm glad it's out there. By all means, I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy it, but that game is just not for me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And other than that, the only other thing that's happening this week is there's going to be a whole bunch of smaller games ported to the Switch.
Like
so if
a
you-
shit ton of them.
yeah, it's like 20, 25 games that are all getting thrown on the Switch, but none of it's really big enough to talk about. I don't really want to rattle off the whole list. So if you have a Switch, maybe check the eShop or whatever it's called sometime in the next week. There's going to be some new smaller games to play on there. Or just continue playing the really big ones on there, which we'll probably talk about fairly soon.
More than likely. That's going to bring us up to the last segment of the show today, and that is our picks for our own personal game of the year. Keep in mind, there's no like prestige or award with this. It's just what we thought
Also,
were.
caveat, we don't agree on anything. We actually don't count down. Everything's in any order, and he's played way more games than me.
Yeah. A couple things to note. One, there's no real order to this. I have mine kind of in order, but depending on what time of day you catch me, the order will shift. Two, this really means nothing. There's no objective standard here. This is just what we enjoyed the most. Because Game of the Year
I guess I
lists-
wouldn't even call it a game of the year. It's just games we enjoyed.
Yeah. In a standout year, of games in 2017, I wanted us to each pick 5 that really spoke to us higher than anything else. We each have 5 at least, and honorable mentions maybe. David, do you have any honorable mentions, or are you just going with straight 5 games?
I don't have honorable mentions. I'll make something up.
All right, fair enough. Why don't you lead us off, and we'll alternate, and then at the end we will mention some honorable mentions or notable exceptions that were not added to either one of our lists. Before we go, though, Salty Frank's Game of the Year apparently is Skyrim Game of the Year Edition re-release to Electric Boogaloo.
Excellent. That's a fantastic choice.
It is.
Is that the VR edition or the portable edition?
No, the VR edition will come out in January.
Okay,
and
perfect.
get released again on all platforms. I want to sit down and actually tally up how many times that fucking game has been released.
7?
I feel like it should be way more than 7.
I don't know. You can look it up later. So one thing I was going to talk about in my games list is the fact that, yes, 2017 is a fantastic year for gaming. And there's just been so much good stuff in really any genre. And one genre that actually got a lot of love this year made me really happy, and that's fighting games.
Yeah, I mean,
like a new Marvel vs. Capcom, Street Fighter V finally becoming playable, Injustice 2 coming out. Like, there's a whole lot of good stuff that happened. But for me personally, the big one is Tekken 7.
I almost said Injustice 2 when you go for that, then I realized I should not showbiz you and just say the name of what your choice is going to be before you come out with it. So I waited. That's why I stopped myself there. But yeah, there was like a resurgence of fighting games this year.
It was great. The funny thing is this game isn't actually new because it's been out in Japan arcades for like 2 years. But whatever, we finally got it. Yeah. And it's just so damn good. If you don't like fighting games, you don't like fighting games. I've always liked the 3D fighters. I thought they were more accessible than like really, really high skill cap 2D games like Street Fighter and King of Fighters and stuff like that. Sidestepping and playing Tekken back in the day was fun for me. It's the only game I could actually play against people that were really damn good at and hold my own. So the fact that there's a new one is just as fun as I remember it. They started throwing in characters from other game franchises. It's pretty cool. I'm really digging it. And there's the fact that, Noctis from Final Fantasy 15 is getting thrown in.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that a while ago.
Yeah, and it's a really well-polished game. Pretty, like, every character I can think of, really, from the franchise has been thrown back in, or at least a greatest hits version of them. It didn't launch with 5 characters. It launched with, I think, 28. A pretty damn good number for a launch fighter.
Just shy of 30 characters is impressive. That's like the olden arcade days of like Mortal Kombat 2. I don't know if it even came that much, but you know what
solid.
I mean. Yeah,
again,
it's a good list.
There's been a lot of fighters that came out this year, and that one's my favorite, so it's on my list.
Before I move into my first one, it looks like Salty Frank did some research for us. According to him, Skyrim was released on the following. It was released on PC, Xbox 360, and PS3 for 3. Then after the DLCs and Game of the Year on all 3, so that's up to 6. Then Next Generation Consoles, Legendary Edition, and the weird PC one too, so that's 9. And the Switch, so that's 10. Finally, PSVR version, so a total of 11 Skyrim releases. I would go even farther because I believe there's also the Rift release, which would bring it 12. I think 11 is still on the small side of things. I think it's even more than that. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. My first Game of the Year on the list. It is a very long-standing franchise. It has been around since the mid to late 90s. Debuted on PlayStation 1 back when PlayStation 1 was brand new. It created a new genre onto video games themselves back when we used to have things like straight RPG or platformer. This game, in its legacy, created the survival horror franchise. And I'm talking about Resident Evil 7.
Dun-dun-dun.
Resident Evil 7 is a return to form for a series that has misstepped hard over the past few iterations. Now, Resident Evil 6 is the best-selling Resident Evil of all time, if I recall correctly, so it took a lot of balls for Capcom to go, okay, we need to reinvent the wheel here, because that franchise was making money, despite having a lot of complaints from long-standing fans. And they went in a radically different direction by going fully first-person, They embraced the VR headset hard and returned the entire series back to its horror roots. They even abandoned, for the most part, trying to talk about Wesker and Umbrella and Stars and all that. While they're still present in the game, they take a backseat to you just being alone, hunted by horrible shit. It is by far the best PSVR experience I've played, and one of the better Resident Evils, at least in my opinion, since the fourth one. It is an amazing game. It's an amazing horror game. It is an amazing VR experience, and I'd recommend anyone who has access to a PSVR headset give it a shot.
Dang, that's a good praise there.
Yeah, it is the best PSVR game. It is one of the best horror games this year. It is a welcome return to form for a franchise that I thought jumped the shark long ago, without fully abandoning what it still recognizes the legacy of its predecessors, rather than just doing a full reboot. So I highly recommend it to everyone out there. That's 5 on my Game of the Year list. David.
Well, speaking of number 5, let's talk about Persona.
Okay.
and the fact that, okay, so I started with the Persona games with Persona 3. It was the first one I ever played. I got into that, and then I played the Gold Edition of Persona 4 on PSP. Was it Vita? I don't remember. For a bit.
PSP.
And
no, Vita? Shit, I don't remember either. I think it was Vita
something.
now that I think about it.
Anyway, those games are pretty fun. I like the mechanics, I like the way it played. It's just kind of like a silly game that you could just invest a lot of time into. It has like a really weird atmosphere. It's always got this kind of jazzy, upbeat-ish soundtrack that would remind me of watching like Cowboy Bebop and
the
stuff like
that. The soundtrack
that.
is amazing to any of the Persona games.
Yeah, fantastic. And then throw in like the cutscenes and just the way the characters are kind of absurd. And then, oh, by the way, let's just battle demons at nighttime. I always thought the way the game balances, like how you have to manage your social life and like get grades in school, and then now you got to fight all these monsters and you got to make an actual decision on, well, what are you actually going to do during the day? Because the whole time you're still managing time.
That series can go from bright and cheerful and happy, like almost nauseatingly anime-esque sweet, to just the most dark, disturbing thing you could possibly think of on like the turn of a dime.
And that's just amazing.
And it's done well.
I think it's built really well. I think it plays really well, and I think it's artistically one of the most stylish games that came out this year. I
all the
still
way
love
down to the menus.
Yeah, I was gonna say I still love the menus in that game. Like when you get into combat and how you just everything you do is just a face button on the controller, but it looks seamless. It's great, and it's engrossing. You're a high school student that, oh man, you moved to a new town and you got to start a new school, and oh, by the way, now it's time to battle evil.
Makoto, best girl, by the way. Yeah, no, good choice. Good choice from Persona 5 as your next game. My next game is a interesting fusion of Ninja Gaiden and Dark Souls, and that is Nioh. Nioh is a, for lack of a better term, Souls-born game where follows that same idea of you kill a bunch of shit, you collect their experience. If you can get back to a save point, you can cash that experience in. If you die, you drop it and you have to go get it again. And if you die before you get it, it's gone. Similar idea there. It's very loosely based off the life of an actual person named William something or other. Can't remember the guy's actual last name. Essentially, you're fighting demons in feudal Japan, and it has an extremely tight control scheme. My biggest complaint with Dark Souls as a whole was always how slow it felt. That's why I love Bloodborne so much, and that is why I love Nioh, because it is blindingly fast, especially when it comes down to like changing your styles mid-battle to get certain advantages. Everything about it is just non-stop action. It's not ponderous and weighty like Dark Souls is, which is fine. That has its place, but this is extremely fast and furious paced, which is why I say it's more Ninja Gaiden than Dark Souls. But Nioh is really, really good. If you have that itching for a From Software game and you're kind of upset you didn't get one this year, take a look at Nioh.
Man, I'm just gonna straight disagree on loving the fast-paced fight more.
Fair
um,
enough.
I think we know, or we've talked about plenty of times, how much I just love like the first Dark Souls. I love like how heavy everything feels and how slow and dramatic everything is. And I guess it comes back to the fact that I prefer to plan in games, like kind of strategize, figure out what I need to do next, and then go from there. Which is why my next pick is going to be Divinity Original Sin 2. And if you haven't played that game yet, you should, because it's the greatest RPG that was released this year.
It was a critical darling for damn sure. I think it's sitting like in the mid to high 90s on Metacritic. I'd have to double check that. In fact, as you talk about that game, why don't I look that up?
So it's a CRPG in like the traditional sense, I guess. It's a computer based RPG, so it plays like an old school Torment game.
It's part
It
of that.
plays like
It's part of that
it
research
plays
I
like
was mentioning earlier, right? With Pillars of
yeah,
Eternity and all that.
Pillars of Eternity. It plays like Baldur's Gate. It plays. It's just that top down kind of isometric game where you can get a party of four. You can play by yourself. You can do drop in co op with friends, and the world itself is completely engrossing. The character backstories are amazing, and there's just so many ways to play. It's like a theory crafter's dream house because you can make a melee character that heals while standing in the blood of his enemies, and his whole point is to shield charge in and start bashing people to death while regaining health the entire time. That's fantastic. Or you can just play as a mage that sets everything on fire and start throwing barrels of oil all over the all over the playscape, and then just start a little spark and watch as all your enemies burn. It's just fun in a classic sense. I don't know. And the storyline is amazing, going through and trying to figure out what's going on and why you start on this island with a bunch of people that somehow know magic and wear these binding collars, and just the tales it brings you through as you explore not just the overall story, but like I said, the characters in that game that they added that you can play as or make your own character and bring them with you. It's just fascinating.
I did like that. Like the first Original Sin, I always have a hard time when a game just goes, make your own character. I'm like,
Yeah, because you don't have to, and the characters they present are just so cool.
Yeah, when I play a game like this, I want a tight, controlled narrative. So I want you to create like a character form, which is why I like Divinity Original Sin 2 so much. Because yeah, you can make your own guy, whatever. Make a undead dwarf or a really weirdly off-putting skinny ass elf chick. And go from there. Or you can pick from one of these 4 or 5 preset characters that we have that have fully recorded dialogue and they have backstory already set up.
Or even better, you can still make your own character so that you can have the character that you want to have in a fight, that exact playstyle you like. And then during the entire game, you can just play as whatever story character you befriend, make them the head of your party, and that character that you created at the very beginning is just a tag along that you use in combat.
Yeah, this game has a lot of choice available to you. It is currently sitting at 93 on Metacritic with 66 positive reviews and only 1 mixed, no negative.
It's damn good. If you haven't played it yet, you should play that game.
No, I recommend taking a look at it as well. My number 3. This is another game that is a franchise that's been around forever. I always loved this guy with varying highs and lows. I tend to be kind of contrarian in what games of the franchise I enjoy more than most people. But my number 3 game is Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch.
Damn it.
It's the greatest Mario game since Mario Sunshine. I know a lot of people hated Mario Sunshine, but I personally loved it. The level designs are amazing. The control scheme is amazing with all the shit you can do. You could get surprisingly deep falling down the rabbit hole of Mario Switch's gameplay. And New Donk City is just...
Dude, I was going to say, New Donk City and the ending of that whole section, as soon as I played through that, I went, oh, that's on my list for the best game I've played this year. Period. It's fantastic.
Why don't we go ahead and talk about your next game, which sounds like it's going to be Super Mario Odyssey.
Super Mario Odyssey is fantastic. I randomly ended up with a Switch this year, and I got a copy of that game and just started playing the crap out of it. I almost immediately went on a trip, so I did nothing but play that game for like 4 days straight. And I loved every second of it. Some of the newer like 3D Marios, I found myself getting bored with. I mean, they've always been like a solid franchise, but I just didn't get drawn in like I had when I was a kid. Something about this game just clicked from throwing your hat around and doing jump cancels, barrel rolls to get extra distance so you can get on top of the mountain at the very beginning, to just the way characters kind of interact with you, to buying new hats for Mario to wear. I don't know. It's just fun.
Yeah, that game is amazingly fun. And if you want to see
That's all it is. It's just entertaining.
If you want to see how nuts you can get, watch some YouTube clips of people doing the races. Later on in the game, you have to get some of the moons. You have to beat like a team of AI controlled toads to get from one point to the other. People can do this shit in like seconds. From not even using glitches, just the way the game is designed.
Mm-hmm.
By like double jumping, throwing your hat, jumping on the hat, jumping off the hat onto a wall, backflipping, double jumping again, throwing the hat, and it is a thing of beauty to behold if you're into watching things like speedruns. So, my next game, number 2, we won't get too deep into it because you already mentioned it, Persona 5.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that you mentioned earlier, I fucking love that jazz soundtrack. It actually kind of makes me want to be a Japanese school kid because I have this weird fascination now that like all high schools in Japan. Yeah, well, I have like this. I know it's completely wrong, but now in my head, every time I think of Japanese school, I always think it's like half wondering who's going to ask you out to the school dance, and the other half, I'm going to go fucking beat the shit out of demons. Or investigate murders, or I'm going to steal this mob boss's heart. The biggest thing I love about Persona 5 specifically is just the character design. I legitimately care about every character in that game. Like, straight up. I have a vested interest in what happens to them. So that is a hallmark of good character design and writing. David, let's go ahead and get to your final one, and then we'll say my final one.
Well, I think my favorite game this year is it's an open world game, true to form. I think it's like the pinnacle of open world games. It's what they've all been building towards. I think it's what everyone was really waiting for. It's a post-apocalyptic game, and it's just damn fucking fantastic. And it's the one that started Redhead. Talking Horizon Zero Dawn.
No secret, that's my number 1 too. We've already had this conversation multiple times.
A while ago. That game is just so damn good. It's so damn immersive. It looks amazing. The way it like combat is satisfying. The skill trees are satisfying. It's got loot boxes in it in a way that don't matter because it's literally just for crafting items. It's only based on vendors. It has nothing to do with real money. It's just...
I would deliberately go off the beaten path to fight horrendously higher level stuff than me just because I love the way combat in that game works.
Yeah, and just to see if you can do it, which most of the time, if you're good enough, you can.
Yeah,
just blasting yourself.
Like hitting the weak, blasting armor pieces off the giant Thunderjaw, I think they're called, the T-Rex looking motherfucker, to expose its core, and then you have the arrow that has like the sonic effect that just blows shit off of it everywhere. Watching that happens is very satisfying.
Or how about getting the like the slow time when you jump off things so that you can get an arrow right in that sweet spot so that as soon as you land it blows up and knocks the creature over, and by then you've already got traps up so that when it dodges at you it gets shocked and electrocuted.
Right.
And now while it's stunned you can start wailing on it with your melee. Like it's damn good, and I think more important than anything else for why this game tops my list over another game that I don't actually think anyone would be talking about if it had a name anything other than the name it currently has. This game doesn't have weapon degradation.
Which is exactly why Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild does not appear on my list. It is a fine game. I like it quite a bit. But that weapon degradation...
Don't get me wrong. That game is fun as shit. And I do really, really like it. But I can't, in good faith, choose a game that has weapon degradation in 2017.
Yeah, I can't. It's what keeps me from just sitting and playing that game for hours and hours on end. That game is limited to...
It's so fucking infuriating.
Yeah. That game is limited to 30-minute spans only for me because of how mind-numbingly annoying that weapon degradation is.
Your
but yeah,
epic shield of blocking all things, destroyer of worlds, forged by the gods, has broken.
yeah, fuck that. That's why Horizon is also top of my list, though, for all the things you mentioned.
Because if Horizon was the exact same game, everything about it was exactly the same except for throw the Zelda skin on it and throw the Horizon skin on Breath of the Wild, no one would mention Horizon at all.
No, not at all. I think that Zelda gets a lot of praise because it's called Zelda.
It is hands down like the best Zelda game that's come out in a really fucking long time. And congratulations, they made a game that mechanically is about 6 years old. Damn good, and it's really fucking polished.
Yeah, once again, don't mistake us. We both love Zelda. I think it's just not in a year of excellent games. It doesn't reach that bar to either.
And maybe
one of us.
I'm just like salty about it because Horizon got completely snuffed at the Game Awards, and Zelda took home every single thing. And I know that everybody loves that game more than any other thing that came out this year, and probably everyone I know is going to yell at me for not picking that. But fuck you guys.
Yeah. I really hate that there's no traditional palaces. You had the 4 divine beasts, but their version of palaces are these like 5-minute little mind teasers, and that kind of bothers me.
Also, here's another one. Fuck forced motion controls. I said it.
The stupid fucking labyrinth thing where you have to tilt the Wii around to get the ball in the hole. I hate that shit.
Guess what? I understand that motion controls are a feature. I understand the fact that I can be using the Joy-Cons separately. I understand that you have a message right at the beginning that tells me I should take the fucking Joy-Cons on. But guess what? If I'm in the car, I am playing this shit in portable mode. And tilting the entire fucking console to move some fucking bowl is infuriating.
Yeah, it's bad. Anyways, I think that wraps up our Game of the Year
really
lists.
Mad about that, and I didn't mean to.
No, that's perfectly fine. I was actually going to mention...
I've just been waiting so long to get that out.
I was going to mention why Breath of the Wild did not make my list, and I'm glad you touched on all the things I have an issue with. I do have a small handful of honorable mentions I want to mention before we wrap up the show today. One is Prey, an amazing game that's the closest we currently have to a modern-day System Shock. Highly recommend playing it if you like that style of game, like System Shock, Thief, Deus Ex, those immersive worlds. Highly recommend picking up Prey. Hand of Fate 2 on the PC. Sequel to Hand of Fate 1. It is this weird... It's not too expensive, and it's definitely got a bunch of issues, but I loved playing it. It's kind of like a... The gameplay itself is Arkham City-style combat, or Lord of the Rings, Shadow of Mordor combat, where it's that free form, you bounce from enemy to enemy, and you press one button to block there to attack. But the way the map is created every chapter is based on tarot cards you slide into your deck. So you move to the next area, and a new location is revealed, but this location is corresponding to a card you put in the game. It's really hard to explain if you're not familiar with it. Go take a look at it. I really loved it. A couple others real quick. Assassin's Creed Origins. It is amazing what taking a year off can do for your franchise.
It's like your favorite Assassin's Creed at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what taking a year off can do to improve the quality of your game.
And using the good team.
Yeah, the Black Flag team. If you've given up on Assassin's Creed, I would say take a look at this one. It takes the series in a direction I really hope sticks around.
Also, if you want the last good one, Black Flag is currently free on Uplay.
Worth taking a look at.
No joke. I think I would have to throw in an honorable mention for Cuphead.
Yeah.
While that game is outrageously difficult, if nothing else, even if you don't want to play it, watch that game.
The game is beautiful.
Pull up a YouTube and watch somebody beat it, because it is one of the best looking games I've ever seen, and the soundtrack is phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
I have a couple more I want to mention real quick. The only reason why neither one of these two actually made my best game of the year list is because, honestly, I have not been able to put too much time in it because they're both very long, and just so much other shit has come out that I played. And one of them is Divinity Original Sin 2. Finally got a chance to play a little bit of that over the weekend. It is the cleanest looking CRPG I've seen in a while, especially when it comes to its interface.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. It's super clean and orderly. And the last honorable mention I have, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Switch. This game is the most JRPG game that you'll ever play. It is super grindy, super anime-esque silly. I mean, it's a story about a young boy collecting sword waifus. And I'm not too far off the mark when I'm actually saying that. But both those games are massive RPGs, and I just haven't had the appropriate time to get a truly formed opinion on either one of them. But they're both been really good so far, and I'd recommend you taking a look at either one of those two, especially if you're needing something meaty on the Switch beyond Mario and Zelda.
I have one final honorable mention, actually.
Okay.
I think we talked about it a little bit. It's the Monster Hunter World beta. And how I haven't played a whole lot of games that are coming out next year yet, but I'm fairly positive that this time next year I will be talking about that game.
Okay, sounds good. I know you have high praise for it. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, or if you just happen to be catching out the video on demand on Twitch, feel free to let us know in the comments down below what your game of the year is, and we'll try to address them come up next show, which will likely be New Year's Day, January 1st.
Or later.
Or
we'll
later.
Put a Twitter
Possibly
post out.
Follow us at Game Points PC on Twitter or on Facebook for more updates on that. Also, feel free to email the show with what your lists are at gamepointspc@gmail.com if you wish. Unless you have anything extra you want to say, David, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. This has been... Go ahead.
Friday. Monster Hunter. Play Monster Hunter on Friday.
This has been Game Points episode 116. Thank you for joining us live. If you happen to catch us, we do stream live every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. We are a conversational podcast, so feel free to join in the conversation with any questions, comments, concerns you might have. If you can't watch us live, however, please tune into our YouTube page. Just type in GamePoints as one word, and we pop right up there. Regardless of where you view us at, like, subscribe, follow, share, dislike, comment, whatever you want. We try to at least read all of it. If you want to follow us individually, you can follow myself at CapitalistPig21, or you can follow David over there at Palshife_Satori. And that's it. This has been Game Points episode 116, and until we see you next time, we're out of here.